Good morning, everyone. In today's lecture in audio production techniques, we are going to be looking at interconnections. What we mean by that is, in the previous weeks, we sort of identified what is sound and what is audio, and sort of what is the representation of sound that we see as audio, or rather hear as audio. And from that, we are going to be thinking about now how that audio can be used and like manipulated in sort of production situations. So one of the things that will happen when we are thinking about that is there has to be some level of transfer of these audio signals from one place to the other. So we may be, say, for example, connecting a microphone and a speaker and some cables and some other components in between. So if we do something like that, then there's some form of connectivity happening. So that is what we are trying to sort of focus on today, sort of various aspects of how this connectivity can be established and what are some of the various protocols and sort of again sort of basic sort of terminologies, basic concepts that we will have in terms of establishing this type of connectivity in various audio production environments. So the first thing is we already identified what audio is. So audio is basically what we see as the representation of sound. So sound is what is made in the physical world, and when we have some form of a representation of that, we would identify that as the audio. So then in most cases, when an audio is being captured or like transmitted or transferred, we would have it in a way as an audio signal. So that is the representation of the sound waves. The sound waves will be sort of physical movement of air and particles or whatever in between. So that physical movement is what we say as sound waves. And then when we have an audio representation of that sound, we would have an audio signal, and most typically one of the ways we will represent that is as electric signals or electrical voltages. So when we speak into a microphone, the microphone is going to the sound is going to go from whatever the sound source to the microphone as movements of pressure differences in the whatever the medium in between. Then from the microphone onwards, it is going to be transmitted or transferred into an electrical signal, and then that electrical signal is what is going to be the audio signal. Then with that, we would also, one of the other things that we would come across is what is called this audio signal flow. So this is a common thing that we will be talking about quite often when we are talking about sort of various things in audio production. So that is how the audio signal is going from one place to the other. So that whatever the interconnections, whatever the connectivities and so on, we will be sort of thinking about in this perspective from this audio signal flow. So a good example could be, say, we start from a source like a microphone, and then we go through a number of components, and we finally reach a speaker, so which could be the output device. So depending on that, we will utilize various components in between and various connectivity possibilities in between technologies and so on to connect these things. So that is what we would see as audio signal flow. So when we think about sound waves and audio signals, or like when we are thinking about capturing sound waves as audio signals, there are a number of sort of concepts that we will be focusing on, a number of sort of fundamental concepts that we have to be thinking about. So one of those is thinking about phase and polarity, or polarity and phase. So these are properties of signals, and you may remember sort of briefly studying about this in some other courses as well. But the main point to remember about polarity and phase is when we say polarity, so that it means what is the sort of signal's perspective. Signal is in reference to sort of a 0 point. So if we have a signal that is going like this, and we have that as the 0 voltage value, so then the change could be whether it is a positive value or a negative value. So that is the polarity. So whether it is positive or negative from a reference point. Then phase is about, so the polarity is more about this value, the value that it takes. Phase is about where it is in reference to a sort of time signal. Say, if we define a time signal of a particular time period. So, and if you remember, think about sampling, for example, because like when we convert sound signals into audio signals, we normally do some form of a sampling. So, or rather, like when we sort of digitize these things, we would do some form of sampling. So when we do sampling, one of the important factors could be this: at what point in time we are looking at these signals. And when we think about these time differences, one of the things that we can see is, say for example, if we see this one, and if that is the sort of a particular time frame that we are focusing on, and say these are the time frames that we are focusing on, and we will see a particular value and a particular pattern following after that. But if we change that time signal or time reference to a different point, or if the signal itself moves slightly, so if the signal now moves, it's a similar pattern signal, but now it has moved, and now at every point in that signal, it is going to be slightly different values. So for example, in this one, the first signal had a particular value at a particular point in time. So if we take this particular point in time, the first signal had a particular value and the second signal has a different value. It is the same signal. The only difference is that it has time shifted slightly. The starting or the ending time has shifted slightly. So now it is out of phase. So what we mean by that is, in normal sort of sound signals, we go through in this sort of repetitive cycles of waves, and we would have a particular starting and ending point, and we would want to match that. And one of the reasons we will look at is reason for matching is the potential for cancellations to happening. Because like in the previous week, we looked at saying, say if we have a signal, if we have two signals and they are out of phase, when we add them together, we come up with a if we are out of phase, the values, the polarities are opposite at a particular point in time, the values are added and they cancel out to be sort of cancel each other out. So to avoid such situations or avoid such scenarios, what we would try to do is try to match the phases if that is what we need. And there are number of possibilities that we may have, such as say like when we are thinking about like two signals, and one of the common situations where you may come across this in a production environment is when you are using say two microphones, for example, and two microphones to mic the same source. Say if you are miking a drum kit or a guitar or whatever, and you are using two microphones to do that, and if those two microphones are out of phase, So that is, they are in two opposite phases. Whatever the signal that is coming from those two devices are opposite phases, then we may have some level of cancellation happening in the outgoing signal there. So that is something that we may have to think about. And normally when we are representing phase, we would talk in terms of degrees. So that is, if it whether it moves 180 degrees, so that is like it's moving, say, halfway through, we will say as 180 degrees. If it is moving a full cycle, we would say it is moving by 360 degrees. So these are some of the things that we will be considering when we are particularly thinking about how sound is propagating, how sound is being transmitted through audio signals when they are captured and transmitted, and how some of these things can affect that signals. So then the basic way we identify sound or identify audio in most equipment is, as we said, is sort of changing of voltages. So when we need to identify changing of voltages, we need to have a reference point. So because, like, say, if we need to know something, a voltage value is increasing and decreasing, that means we are comparing it with a reference value. So that reference value has to be, say, a 0 voltage, and normally we would achieve this 0 voltage by our devices that are connected having a ground point. So normally within the electronic device or electrical device that we have, we will have a ground point. So it may be connected to the earth of the say mains power supply, or it could be a common earth or common ground in that device itself. So that grounds are normally what we would use for as that 0 voltage value or 0 reference point, and any changes will be compared to that 0 point. So that is the ground. Then we may come across a situation when we are measuring it like that, that is when we share two devices, or when we are connecting two devices, and when we connect, or when these two devices share a common ground, for example, that may sometimes lead to a situation called ground loops. So what we may have is, say we have two devices. We have one device here and another device here. So of these two devices, both of them need to have both of them are connected together, like sending some sound signals between them. So then, for example, if these are connected, say if these are connected by a common ground wire, so this common ground wire is connecting these two, and this is the ground point. So we will assume this is the 0 voltage point. So if that is the 0 voltage point, then that 0 voltage point will translate directly as a 0 voltage point to this device as well as a ground point. But sometimes if there is a resistance in the wire that is connecting these two devices, or like when it is extended to the other part, that may add some additional resistance there, and that in turn may add a slightly different reference value, that is not 0 voltage, that is now 0.1 voltage. So now what we would have is, the ground value here is slightly different. So even though what we are having here is, say if these two devices are independently working, these two devices are separately functioning, so they are not connected, there's no sound type connection happening. If those two devices are functioning separately, it would not be a problem, because even though like having a 0 voltage as a reference value is just a starting point. We can have like a 5 voltage as a reference point. It doesn't matter what we have as a reference point, as long as we know that is the reference point and that is what we are comparing for the changes. But when we connect these things together through a common connection, then having these mismatching references could be a problem, and that in itself may introduce what is called this ground loop harm. So you may encounter this in a sort of practical environment when you are connecting devices. So you need to be mindful of this. This is something that is coming because of this problem in terms of shared electricity, sort of shared ground points. So, and one of the things that you may have to do is to have some form of ground loop isolation. So you do in most sort of professional audio devices, you may come across things as ground lifts and things like that. So you may have to consider using those options. So just remember this, and we may be able to sometimes come back to this at a later stage when we are discussing various different sort of devices and things. This is something that may be needed in sort of practical use. Then now, so now we have an understanding of how we are like sort of representing, or how we are mapping these sound waves into audio signals and voltage values and so on. Then when things are represented as these voltage values, they are not going to be the same voltage values or same voltage reference points across all types of devices. Different devices may use different ranges of voltage values to represent the same signal. Say for example, we could have a number of devices, and if we want to represent this signal, so that is the signal, we don't have to have the same level of voltage amplification across, because even if we do it a small signal, it would still be the same the same thing can be represented with that level of voltage as well. It may not be preferred for some reasons, as we will discuss later, but that is some possibility there. So when we think about sort of common type of devices that we may come across, say sort of normal microphones that we may use, they may have a very low voltage that they produce, especially dynamic microphones that we may be talking into. These microphones, the voltage that is coming out of the microphones, because that voltage is created by whatever the speaking that we make. So whatever the sound waves that are hitting that microphone elements that are creating that voltage, and that could be fairly lower voltage. Then sort of certain other microphones may, sort of high-end microphones may have some slightly higher, better voltage response there. Then what we know as consumer line level devices. So these are your devices that we use in sort of our sort of home uses, that type of thing. So laptop output, for example, your output from your mobile phone or a DVD player or a television. So these things may output in that consumer level. And then we have pro devices, professional audio devices, that may have much higher reference voltages that they may use, voltage ranges that they may use. And then when we measure these sound signals with different devices, again we may have different levels. Because of this, they may be represented in different levels as well. So for example, say sort of the mic levels, or the mic type devices may have a very sort of lower sound pressure level, or the signal level will be much lower. Consumer devices may have a certain level, and professional audio devices may have a much higher level. So depending on how we are using these devices and what type of devices we are using, and they may produce different type of signals, and we may have to, when we are interconnecting them, we have to know about that as well. Say for example, if we connect a consumer level device to a professional level gear, we may have to give certain level of amplification to bring that level to an expected level there. So these are some of the things we may be thinking about when we are working with these multiple devices. So one of the other things that we will think about is, say even in the previous one we said like different type of devices may be connected through different type of connectors. So when we take a single audio gear, like a large, say, a mixing board type of a thing, in that sort of an audio gear we may be having a number of inputs and various type of connectors, but we don't just have to think about the connectors, but we also have to think about what is coming through that connector, because a connector doesn't dictate what is the type of audio signal that can come through. We may have an XLR connection, or we may have a 3.5 millimeter connection. That connection is just a set of wires that are there. The level of signal that is coming through that connection can be anything, because like you can send any signal through any wire most of the time, and then that can carry any sort of level of signal. So then we have to think about that in terms of what is the type of connector that we are using, but also what is the type of signal that is coming. So we cannot just connect because it has an XLR cable into any XLR port, because the signal that is coming may be a line level higher voltage signal, and the input may be expecting a lower voltage microphone signal, and that may cause distortion, or that may cause some abnormalities in how that signal is being processed. So the main thing to remember is, even if the connector fits, that doesn't mean it is going to work perfectly. We have to think about what is the signal coming, what is the signal level or the voltage level of the signal that is coming in, and then we have to connect it appropriately. So say for example, if we are connecting into a mixing board, it would clearly identify whether it is a mic input or a line level input, or sometimes it may have options to change between those two. Then we have to change those accordingly and then connect those devices. So after thinking about those connectors that we may have, so those are the things that are going to attach to various devices, the next thing that we will be thinking about is the cables, or like how are those connections are going to be made. So when we think about that connectors, then again we will think about the cables themselves, and say with different types of cables we may have, say, different things included as part of the cable. So like multiple things can be included within the cable. So we will have the wires themselves, so the copper wires or whatever the metal things that are going to carry the signal, carry the electric signal. Then we will have shielding. So shielding will be again an additional set of material that will be there, that will be constructed in a particular manner. Normally you would see them as sort of these foil wrappings or some form of additional wire sort of meshing kind of thing around cables. So they are there to protect from external interference, external electrostatic interference coming into the signal. Then we will have some level of insulation, so that is like plastic or PVC or some non-conductive material will be used as sort of insulation, and then we will attach various connectors and jacks to the ends of those cables. So that is how we would make a basic connector connecting between these devices. So these are again some things that we'll have to think about in terms of, say, within the same shielding or within the same insulated cable, we may be able to carry a number of wires. Say, for example, here we can have a number of wires like this. And then, depending on the nature of application, we may require certain level of shielding, certain type of shielding, protecting it from external interference. Especially for professional audio applications, that is something we would want to use to have shielded cables. Then, depending on the application and nature, we may want certain type of insulation. Say, for example, if these cables are used for indoor purposes versus outdoor purposes, we may want certain different types of insulation. Say, if a cable is going to be exposed to sunlight for extended period of time, we may need to choose cables that have UV resistant insulation, so they don't go bad or deteriorate over time when they are left in the sunlight. So these are some of the things that we'll have to think about when we are choosing audio connections and connectors based on different applications that we may have. And in terms of sort of possible types of connectors that we may have is like sort of especially considering sort of professional audio equipment or devices, sort of we can a number of type of connectors we may come across. So things like TS and TRS connectors, these are sort of what you may find in your headphones and so on, but they may again come in different sizes. So like sort of larger, say 6.5 or like a whatever that 6.35 millimeter size or the 3.5 millimeter size, and then even with that we can have TS or TRS configuration. So TS is tip and sleeve, TRS is tip, ring and sleeve, and then sort of recently when we have this sort of headphone cables or headset cables that have microphone also included, we may have this 4-pole connection which has TRRS. So we have a tip, ring, sleeve configuration. So you may come across these RCA connectors that may be used a lot in sort of consumer electronics, like connecting your DVD player to a television, that type of a thing. And that again sometimes we may use in some professional applications, or connecting these consumer devices into professional devices. We may use some of these cables, and then we may use XLR cables. So those are much more commonly used in professional applications for connecting microphones and other audio applications. So the type of signal that is carried would be something, then the type of connector that we may use would be something else as well. So these are some of the common type of connectors that we may come across. Then when we think about XLR cables particularly, because XLR cables are some of the common connectors that we may come across, we may identify two categories of male and female connectors, and these male and female connectors will be used in sort of standard applications, as male connectors will be most commonly used to be output devices, and female connectors would be used in sort of input devices. Say for example, if we take for example say a device like this one, so here it has an XLR connection as the input here. The input into the device is an XLR, but it is a female here, and whatever the cable that needs to connect, that will be outputting into this, will be a male connector. So that is how we would differentiate between different devices and different type of connectors. Whereas like say the TS cables or TRS cables, most of the time both ends will be male connectors. There will not be sort of female connectors in those type of applications. So again, we may have say TS connectors where we have the sleeve and the tip. So whereas then in TRS connectors we have a ring, and TRRS will have additional 2 rings and a tip and a sleeve. And then we have RCA cables, again they have a tip and a sleeve. Again, these are some things that you may be coming across when we are connecting or making connectors. Sometimes we may have to connect, say, 2 of these, say connect one end to be a TS and the other end to be a RCA. So sometimes we may do that type of connectors as well. So you need to know, like say, how many cables can be connected, how many endpoints are there in each of these different types of connectors. Then another important concept that we will come across when we are talking about connectors is what is called a balanced and unbalanced signal. So say we have a long audio cable that is running from one place to the other. So then what happens is, it is basically a cable, basically a metal wire. So any external interference, external electrostatic magnetic interference can create some differences, some induce some currents within those cables. So much similar to how your antenna works. So you have an antenna for a radio or a television. So that is basically some metal pieces that is hanging somewhere, and that metal piece is interfering with some external signals, and that is inducing some additional current in that signal, that is then converted into whatever radio or television transmission signal and used. So the same thing would happen even if we send a purely a good sort of sound signal through a cable, through a line. It may capture a lot of this noise as it goes along, and at the receiving end it may produce this noise included sound signal. So sound signal will receive that as well. So that is a problem that we would have when we are using these unbalanced cables, or like these 2 conductor cables, 2 wire cables, and these are most commonly used in these sort of, say, TS and RCA connections only have 2 connections, or can only connect 2 wires in between those. So they are able to carry a single signal, and that is what we would call as unbalanced. The solution that we have for this problem is what we call a balanced signal. So what we do with a balanced signal is, we basically use the concept of this destructive interference. So when we talked about this, when signals are out of phase, they can cancel each other out. So when we have 2 signals that are out of phase, each of them can cancel each other out, and then we don't have a signal there. We use that destructive interference for our advantage, and what we do is, instead of having a pair of wire carrying the signal, we add an additional wire to there. And so now what we have here, so that is the 0 voltage, so that is the positive and that is the negative. So we'll identify that as like that. So now what we have is, these 2 cables will carry a single signal, so that will be the original signal, and then these 2 wires will be used to carry a reverse of the same signal. We will reverse the signal and send that through the next cable. So now what we have here is, we will, whatever the things that are being carried on, whatever these 2 cables are going to collect a lot of noises. So both the cables are going to collect noises. So say this is the signal that we had, and we collected a noise here which added something here and something here. So those are the additions that we received. And we have a reverse signal, so that is there, but reverse signal will also carry the interference in the same pattern, because both wires are going through the same place, so the interference is going to be the same. So here also the interference is going to be the same. So if it is a reduction, it is going to be a reduction. It is an addition, it is going to be an addition. So now these are the two signals that we will receive with both having the interference. So now at the receiving point, if we reverse this one, take this one and reverse that, what we will have is a signal that is now like this, but now the interference is going to be in the opposite direction, because here the interference was captured as it was, now that is flipping. So now when we add these two signals, what will happen is this interference and this interference will cancel each other out, because one is positive and one is negative. They will cancel each other out. This and this interference will cancel each other out. So that is how we would use this destructive interference in balanced cable. So we take, instead of sending through a single pair, we will take two pairs of cables. We will send one signal as it is and one reverse signal. Both of them will capture the noise. When reversed, the noise will be opposite. So the noise will cancel the noise out. The original signal will still remain same, because the original signal was now back to how as it was. So that is how we will use balanced signals to manage noise, so impact of noise over long distances. So we would most likely use these in professional audio equipment. So with we may use XLR cables or TRS cables. So we need 3 wires there. So that's the only requirement. So as long as we can have 3 wires, we can send balanced signals. So when comparing between cable types, we would say to have unbalanced, for unbalanced we just need 2 conductors, one for the signal, one for the ground. So we need 2 wires there. For unbalanced, we need 3 conductors for the 2 signals and 1 ground there. And the sound level of these cables are normally the sound levels that are normally carried through these type of cables will also differ between those. And the because of interference and because how long it can have an acceptable level of signal, most of the time unbalanced signals will be limited to how far they can be used, whereas in balanced signals we may be able to use them over long distances. And in some applications we may also use additional components to extend these distances. We may again briefly touch upon those in sort of later on. So again, the main thing to remember is we would prefer to, and we would ideally try as much possible to use balanced cables when we are connecting professional application, professional equipments and so on. And one of the scenarios that we may come across is, say we have unbalanced cables. So say for example, the device that we are using is only producing an unbalanced signal. A good example is a guitar. An electric guitar would produce only an unbalanced signal from the source, because it is at the source point, it is only going to produce it's going to produce a single signal, and that is going to be unbalanced. And or any sort of other equipment that we may come across. Now if we want to send it across a long distance, for example, we will come across the same problem of this interference problem. So what we may do is we may use what is called a direct injection box, and it will do two things. It will convert it into a balanced signal by adding another layer of this opposite polarity, but then it will also what do is it will increase the signal level, so over long distances it is again carried through at a higher rate compared to a lower level sort of unbalanced signal. So we will use what is called these direct injection boxes to make this happen, and we will use this a lot in professional applications as well. So you may come across these in sort of when we are connecting guitars and instruments and so on into the devices. So what we may do is we will use transformers and certain basic sort of electric or electronic capabilities to build something that is converting a unbalanced signal into a balanced signal that can be connected through a XLR cable. So you may come across these in sort of stage applications or even in studio applications where these sort of various devices are being connected over long distances, or even if not across long distances, we would still prefer to use these. Then other than sort of standard XLR cables, we may still come across a lot of other sort of various type of cables, like sort of we may still have a lot of mini stereo cables that we may connect. Say if we need to connect a laptop, so audio coming from a laptop or your mobile phone, for example, we may have to use sort of one of those mini stereo cables, maybe a TRS cable or a TRRS cable, depending on what we are trying to do here. Or sometimes if you want to connect some other audio into a mobile device, for example, again we may have to do that. Then certain sort of consumer electronic devices may use specially to connect sort of speakers from amplifiers and so on, these banana cables. But in more sort of high voltage sort of speaker applications, sort of connecting between sort of speakers and amplifiers in sort of professional applications, we may use what is called these speak-on cables. They are specifically designed to carry these high voltage signals for these large speakers and so on. And then we may have these additional connectors that are, say, what we call as insert cables or Y cables. So they are basically a TRS connection and at one end, and then we have two TS connections and at both ends. So what we may have to do is, we can do is, if we need to send two unbalanced signals across long distances, what we can do is we can take the two unbalanced signals here. So the two unbalanced signals are here, and we can combine it to a single TRS. So this TRS is not going to be balanced, but still too unbalanced. So we carry it across long distances and then again split it through another Y connector at the other end. So these are again some of the other sort of connectivities that you may come across when we are interconnecting various devices and so on. So speakers or other sort of input devices or output devices or whatever that we may come across. Then the type of cables that we looked so far are mostly analog cables. They were carrying analog signals as electrical voltage differences. But we can have another form of cables that are carrying signals in digital form. Again, we can have two possibilities, two sort of basic categories with these as well. One is sort of metal-based cables, wires still, but they are carrying they are carrying digital signals. We are still using metal cables, metal wires, but now the whatever the signals is that is being carried through is a digital signal. Then on the other hand, we could also use fiber optics, or like optical connections, optical cables. They may be again carrying digital signals. So for example, say SPDIF or SPDIF in coaxial, or AES. So this one is AES, and so basically AES EBU is basically it's a cable that looks like it's essentially an XLR cable. So using an XLR cable to send some digital signals, whereas SPDIF coaxial is basically and looks like an RCA cable that is again used to send digital signals. So the signal carried on those are different, but physically they may look very similar. Then we have a number of fiber optics possibilities, or like fiber optics cables that are there. Some of them are, say, Toslink cables are a lot common in consumer applications. So you may see Toslink connectors. So these are these small square connection ports that you may see in the back of some DVD players and televisions and so on. So that is a consumer optical standard. And then we have some professional standards like MADI and ADAT. They can carry a lot more channels, because like a Toslink is basically you can only send a stereo signal through that, whereas this ADAT and so on can carry like 8 or up to 64 channels depending on how they are configured. So in sort of basic applications, we will use analog signals and carry it across in sort of these basic analog carriers. But then we may use some again additional sort of different cables to connect when they are carrying digital signals as well. And with these type of cables, one of the other sort of common scenario that you may come across is what is called these snakes and patch base. So when we are connecting sort of larger sort of sound enforcement areas, say for example, if we have a stage, say about 200 feet away, or like 100 meters away or whatever, and the soundboard and the control room are going to be at the back of the stage or the back of the venue, then we need to connect everything that is in the stage, everything that is coming from the stage, and then everything that is going back to the stage. So all the microphones and input will be coming in, and all the speakers and monitors and all these outputs will be going back. So there needs to be a lot of wires going across. To do that, what we will do is we will combine all of them into a single core of insulation, and we would put these as what is called these cable snakes or snake bundles. So they will carry a large number of inputs and outputs together and connect at both ends. And in some places we will use what is called these patch panels. They are similar, patch based, they are similar to these patch panels we have in networking. For example, you may have come across when we are doing sort of networking, you may use patch panels. So similar to that, you use them to connect across devices in a sort of organized manner. So these are again some of the additional devices that may be used in sort of more high-end, more large-scale audio environments. And finally, when we are thinking about interconnecting audio devices and audio signals and so on, one of the other things that we have to think about is power, because most of these devices would need power. So say if you are connecting a lot of sound devices, audio devices, you may need power to power those devices. Say if it is an electronic keyboard, for example, an amplifier and so on, so they will need power. So you need to think about how you are powering these devices and what are the solutions you have for that. You may sometimes use alternative currents. Some devices may use direct current or DC. Some may be able to power from mains voltage. Some may be able to power from batteries or some other battery backups. Then you may have to think about how you are going to connect. Say if you have if you are asked to connect, say some power, a stage for set up a stage, for example, you are not only thinking about what are the audio cables you are connecting and where you are placing these things. You are also thinking about what are the different power sources that may be needed, because a keyboard player may need to connect their keyboard to a power source. A guitar player may need to connect their guitar amp to a power source. So different people may need different additional power sources, and how you are providing that, or how you are making room for those things among your audio setup. So you have to think about that. And sometimes you may convert from AC to DC and use. And one of the other things, particularly from a sound perspective, that you may come across is what is called phantom power. So phantom power is basically a way that we are transmitting some power signals across an XLR cable or across a balanced cable, and that power will be used to power a source. So say from our amplifier end, we could send some power to our microphone, and especially when we are using a condenser microphone. We will look at microphones in the coming weeks, but for condenser microphones, we need to have power to power them. So what we would use is, we would send that voltage across the same wires that are carrying the sound signal back, and that will be powering that device. So we are using that as a common approach. So comparing to sort of an analogy would be, we are using the same channels to, in one way, sending power, and the other way the sound signal is going to come back. So from the amplifier end, we would be feeding the voltage, and from the microphone end, it will be using that voltage and then feeding back the sound signal that is being produced. So this is again, we will be thinking about when we are connecting different devices. Say for example, we may think about, okay, if the microphone needs phantom power, we have to have an amplifier or a power another injector device that can provide that phantom power to that particular device. And depending on the devices that you are talking about, certain devices may have a switch to switch on phantom power on and off. Some may have certain connectors specifically allocated or assigned for phantom power, and the others may not provide phantom power. Some devices you may be able to select through options, going through sort of digital menus and options, and select and enable them. So different things may be possible. And one last topic that we are going to discuss today is what is called audio over Ethernet. So one of the things that we sort of briefly touched upon is, say, when we wanted to connect, say, large number of devices from a stage to a control room, we had to put them all through these individual cables, then combine them, or like sort of make it sort of compact through making into a bulk snake, and then sort of sending it to the other end. It is just making it sort of pretty and easy, but still that is a lot of copper cable running across these two places. But one of the possibilities that has come about over the years is the networking cables that we use, sort of standard networking, standard structured networking cables that we use, are capable of carrying a lot of high bandwidth traffic. So because they are able to carry a lot of traffic, and they do a lot of that in sort of networking applications. So this audio over Ethernet is a way that we use some of those cabling infrastructure to carry audio signals. But the main thing here is this is not like carrying audio over internet, for example. This is not about voice over IP type of applications. We are not talking about that. This is not converting audio into some IP applications, internet protocol applications, and then sending. Not talking about like voice calls or Skype calls and so on. This is mainly about high fidelity, so like very sort of high fidelity sort of spectrum, so full spectrum audio and low latency. So for professional applications, we cannot have a significant latency in audio. So say in this voice call that we are having now, it is okay if the audio is received slightly, say few milliseconds delayed, or like few seconds delayed is also even fine. Whereas it may not be a desirable thing in a professional audio environment. So we need to have very low latency application. So in most cases, these are where we don't again use any audio compression. So this is not we are converting it into an MP3 and then sending that, streaming that MP3. Again, this is not that. This is sending mostly uncompressed audio signals across these networking capable networking architecture infrastructure. So these are used in a lot of applications, including live sound or even studio applications. And instead of taking say 100 devices across like a bulk snake, you can send it through even a single, depending on the network that you have. If it is a gigabit network, you may be able to send a lot of channels at once. So there are a lot of devices that you may come across and a lot of protocols that are there to do that. All of them would sort of, if you again remember your OSI layers from networking, so these will be built on top of that. There are some that work on layer 1 protocols, and you will come across them various devices as well, layer 1, layer 2, layer 3 protocols. Say there are a lot of devices, device manufacturers may have support different things. So you may have Dante interfaces or Ultranet interfaces in Behringer devices, or Yamaha and so on will have Yamaha devices may build Yamaha Soundcraft and so on. They build interfaces for all of different protocols like CobraNet or EtherSound or Dante or so on. So again, this is something that is becoming more and more common and more common in a lot of professional applications. And this is not just for Ethernet or like for audio applications as well. And as I briefly discussed in the sort of last week, we can also use this for video applications or sometimes video and audio. Say for example, even now in my sort of use case, I am using NDI to carry my audio and video signals from my recording laptop into my streaming laptop, from which it goes to Zoom, so that it is taking my audio and video through the NDI protocol to the other one through Ethernet. Similarly, we can use not just for audio but also for video. So, and it is a common sort of trend that is coming about, and it's a good trend to be aware of, and so that you can understand and you can even implement that when you are building environment, when you're suggesting people to build certain things and so on. At some point when we get to have a physical interaction at a university again, we may be going through a lot of these in person, some of these devices and so on. So, are there any questions on things that we have discussed so far? that's all for the main lesson part for the day. As a thinking sort of practical, I have a task for you all to do. So what I want you all to think about this stage plot. And stage plots are a very common thing that you may come across, or maybe not so much, but it's a common practice to have a stage plot. Normally bands will have stage plots where they will identify where each of their band players, musicians and so on will have to sit from a stage location, and then they will give that to a sound technician, and the sound technician will have to set up everything according to the stage plot. So that is where stage plots are normally used. So what you may have to think is, you will be given a stage plot, and then you have to decide based on the stage plot how many connections you need, how many and what type of connections you need, what are balanced connections, what are unbalanced connections, additionally how many power connections you may need, and so on. So you need direct boxes, how many direct boxes. So all these things you have to think about. So all the various things that we looked so far, you have to think about from this perspective and create a list of things that you need to have. So this is not a particular assignment, but this is something that I want you all to do, look at this stage plot and decide what you need to have. So what are the cablings and so on. I will post an item on LMS as a discussion item, and I expect everyone to come and contribute to that in terms of whatever that they identify. So I will post that today, and I would expect some response from everyone by the sort of next week or so. So that's all that we have to cover for the day. And are there any questions before we conclude for the day? Any questions about things that we have covered so far, or any questions generally? I hope everyone is working on the assignment given previous week. I think few people have already uploaded, and so I urge the other ones to do that as well. And probably by next week you will get another assignment. So I strongly advise anyone who can complete that before that to complete, because because I don't want you all to have too many assignments carry forward towards the end of the semester. So given that there are no other particular questions, we may conclude the lesson for the day. Thank you for joining, and see you next week. Bye.